obviously, it's a terrible shame because I think that the current leadership have made great strides to try and improve the mood around anti-Semitism.
Now, here's a bit of breaking news. Some audio has been released of Graham Jones, who was a prospective parliamentary candidate for Labour.
Fucking Israel again, you know, and I'm sure that all these people think that when they go home, but you will not get Israel over the line unless we go at them hard.
Well, why is there British people in IDF?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Well, this has been raised, and I'm going to take this up because we have a simple rule.
They're allowed to get a flight there as well.
You do, unless there is a military alliance between us and that particular country, NATO or whatever, then or an individual one, you should not be fighting. No British person should be fighting for any other country at all. Full stop. It's against the law, and you should be locked up.
And our apologies for the foul language you may have heard there as part of that piece of audio, which came to us just literally in the last couple of seconds. And here's some news just in, that a candidate, Graham Jones, has been suspended from the party. Martin, just give me, if you can, your reaction and your thoughts to the news, well, just breaking of a Labour candidate who's been suspended over anti-Semitism, and one who, again, as we saw last night, are getting the same sort of treatment for speaking out in the same, well, in a way seen as anti-Semitic, in an unacceptable, deeply unacceptable way.
Well, obviously, it's a terrible shame because I think that the current leadership have made great strides to try and improve the mood around anti-Semitism. Obviously, encouraging that Luciana Berger felt able to return to the fold, as it were. And I think this just sets back the process, and I hope it hasn't done irreparable harm, but it's obviously very concerning, and particularly as I understand the second individual may have been at the very same meeting, where, again, my understanding is there was no sort of pushback when the initial remarks were made, which is deeply disappointing given the history.
Wait, tell me, Martin, you say you hope it hasn't undone the work that's been done so far. Is it possible? Is that possible that after these now two stories, that Labour's efforts, Keir Starmer's efforts to root out anti-Semitism in the party have been set back, to borrow Rishi Sunak's phrase, back to square one? Is that really how you think it could be?
Well, I think that's probably, politics is involved, but I would think it a terrible shame. When we did the inquiry, we saw the rollout of anti-Semitism training across the party. We've seen people sanctioned to gain more education. I think that a lot of people don't really understand what anti-Semitism is and how easy it is to cause offence. But on the other hand, I think people find the issue of being critical of Israeli secular politics without being branded anti-Semitic is also quite a difficult path. And what we hoped for was a culture of tolerance whereby people could agree to disagree. I know politics arouses passions, but there needs to be some space for respectful debate. And obviously, if I was in that constituency and I was of the Jewish faith, I would be concerned that two prominent members of the party appear to have such antipathetic views towards Israel.
Yes. On that, it is, I guess, possible, do you accept, to have views which are deeply critical of Israel and its leader, Benjamin Netanyahu, without straying into the territory of being an anti-Semitic racist?
Well, it ought to be, because what I would suggest is that if, for instance, I were to say I was of the opinion that Robert Mugabe had damaged Zimbabwe, I don't think that would automatically make me a racist because he happened to be a black premier. And certainly I have many Jewish friends who, and I know there are many pro-Palestinian members of the Jewish faith. And so, it's quite clear that there's a range of views here. So that it seems to me that there must be a way, in discussion with Jewish friends and colleagues, as to how one does express.
And how do you apply that judgment, Martin, in your view, as someone who's looked closely at the Labour Party when it comes to selecting candidates? Well, as you know, the National Executive Committee long lists candidates, and then the local party chooses them. Sometimes there's a different stage at by-elections, but how can that be sharpened up to root out and head off people who are clearly unsuitable in this way?
Well, again, it's about structures, it seems to me, and a really thorough due diligence. It's quite interesting, actually, that the Labour Party at local level is probably more factional than the parliamentary Labour Party. But I think it's the duty of the regional organisers, the national executive, to really kind of get under the skins of these CLPs and make sure the people that are selected are suitable.
If they can. And what about Keir Starmer? Was he too slow to act?
I think this is really difficult because I've never headed a political party, and you can't expect the leader to micromanage everything. What one would hope would be that he would be getting good quality advice based upon local intelligence, which would then allow him to act. I think it also has to be recognised this was the first case is quite a unique situation because of the proximity to the by-election, the inability to choose another candidate, and certainly the JLM and the Board of Jewish Deputies had signalled their willingness, presumably as long as there was some disciplinary process down the line, to allow things to remain as they were until the later remarks were also made public. So against that background, if you feel your respected Jewish allies are prepared with your assurance that something will be done down the line, perhaps one can understand why he didn't react.
This is going to hurt Labour, Martin, isn't it?
Well, I think the two issues. I mean, one is the swiftness of the reaction. The other issue, which I tried to get across to the party, is that there are a number of their MPs of ethnic minority backgrounds who don't feel that complaints that they make are dealt with as swiftly as complaints made against them. And there's certainly bewilderment that the Diane Abbott case, for instance, has taken since April to resolve because she said what she said and she made a fulsome apology. There doesn't appear to be much to investigate. And people think there's a factional reason for that. And again, I can't assess that. And I also know there's some dismay caused by the position that Kate Ossamore finds herself, who again issued an immediate apology.
Well, I mean, there are many differences and they run quite deep, and this has really thrown such a light onto all of it, unfortunately, for the Labour Party. Martin Forde, though, author of that report into anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, thank you so much for joining us.